everybody, welcome to the Buffalo Plus YouTube channel. Mike Catalana along with Dan Fetes. And remember to subscribe and like and comment to our page. Dan, we're thrilled with the response we've got.
We keep climbing up the subscribers. Keep it coming.
Yeah, it's great because we're talking Bills all the time. If you're gonna go down the rabbit hole of YouTube, go to Buffalo Plus. Great stuff there, including Sean McDermott's news conference story that Dan did on Greg Rousseau, our take on practice every day. So let's get to the take today. They're wearing the pads today. Before we get to the five players, thudding up. Sean McDermott just loves it.
Yeah, it's great when you get to see Sean McDermott act like a little kid. Again, he's very reserved. But two things today. Sean McDermott clearly excited to put the pads on. Also, he cracked another joke because Lorenzo Alexander was around at practice these last few days. And they asked him, like, why did you bring him back? And he's like, think about putting him in pads in a couple days and bringing him back. Yeah. And then he does the thing where he looks around to be like, guys, that was a funny joke. That was a funny joke.
Because Lorenzo isn't that far off.
No.
And did you see the guy? I think he can still play.
Looks good. Still looks good.
But he's not playing at the moment. So let's talk about five guys that we've been keeping an eye on during practice, how they're doing, what's being said about them. Let's start with last year's top pick, A.J. Epinesa. It was a weird rookie year for him coming in. But everybody seems to think this guy's ready to play. Yeah,
Mario Addison said today that he goes, watch out, he's ready to explode, watch out. Like he emphasized the point that he thinks AJ is on the verge of having a big year. And we've heard that all offseason, that last year he lost too much weight, wasn't able to be there was no rookie camp, there was no OTAs, as you guys have heard before, but the fact that his body wasn't right. And we also heard earlier this offseason, Deion Dawkins saying that when he put his hands on him, it felt different. like that this is where he's at. And he was the guy that I had in my hot takes leading into the season that I think he will lead the team in sacks. He has the size, he has the speed, and now I think he's coming into his own.
Yeah, well, let's face it. No one on this team had more than 5 sacks last year. So they need production. Sure, you can get it as a whole team, but it is really interesting to hear that. He's a pretty quiet guy. We'll be talking to him at some point during camp, but it's very different when the other players are talking about him. Now, you mentioned weight loss. That brings me to another player. Star Lotulelei is still a big man, but he is slimmed down.
Yeah, I think he says he likes to play around 310, and he goes, yeah, I'm a little light now. I'm like 308. Like he says he will gain the weight back throughout the season, which is pretty impressive when you think about it. But you just hear a lot of guys, Mario Addison, again, a great interview. If we can listen to the full interview on the Buffalo Plus YouTube channel, it's worth the 12 minutes of your time. Really charismatic guy, and he said just how much Star means to this team. He played with him in Carolina. Wasn't on the team last year, but he just knows how much he means to this locker room. And we've heard the linebackers talk about how much they love Star. We've heard the corners talk about how important the defensive line is. So I think Star's another guy that he looks slimmer, but I don't really think he is.
Yeah. Well, we'll see how he plays this year. That year off, I believe Star told us after a little bit of time at home, his wife was like, go back to work.
His wife wasn't ready for him to
retire.
retire.
She wasn't ready for him to be home. But, you look on Pro Football Reference or ESPN, you look for stats. That's not what you look for Star. He's not a stat guy. He could play a great game and have one tackle. That's not really what his job is.
Star gets stats for other players. That's why so many people love Star. And you talked about how nobody on this team had more than 5 sacks last year. I think that is a testament to what Star brought, because in years past you would start to see the first year he was there, they had a little bit more pressure without Star. That went away, but Star's not getting the sacks.
No,
it's the players around him.
And Star's not a guy who does a lot of talking, though he joked when he did his interview before that he said, well, basically you guys don't ask for me, but he's not a big talker. And speaking of a guy who's not a big talker, and I think it was Jordan Poyer who said he's the only wide receiver that doesn't talk after making a play, it's Gabe Davis. He is like a 10-year vet when you speak with him.
He's the exact opposite of Isaiah McKenzie. And while Gabe Davis was doing his interview, I snuck off to the side as Isaiah McKenzie was walking off the field, and I pointed at him and I said, man, Gabe's a really quiet guy. And he just looks at me and goes, he's weird. like that is how Isaiah McKenzie sees it, because they are complete polar opposites. One's taller, one's shorter, one's loud, one's quiet. But he is in such a great situation here of getting to learn from Stephon Diggs and Cole Beasley and Emmanuel Sanders. And he's a student of the game and somebody that Brian Dable and Sean McDermott have applauded his professionalism early on.
I think in any environment, the best compliment you can give somebody in a work environment is that they're a pro.
Yeah.
In our business, in your business, whatever it is, you just say that woman or that guy is a pro. And that's what Brian Dable said about Gabe Davis.
Yeah.
The guy's in his second year. I mean, not excuses. I always say this, not always excuses, but reasons. Reasons why maybe A.J. Epinesa wasn't as good as a rookie. Other guys come into the league. Last year was weird. Gabe Davis, he came right in and was ready. And I think it's part I asked him, have you been that way? He said, really, ever since I've been playing football, he's been the guy that likes to be prepared, likes to be ready. And the other thing Dable said about him is any position, and you guys know this, every position at a wide receiver is not the same, right? You're playing the outside, the inside. And to know all those routes and be ready to do them in an NFL game is incredible.
And I think it says a lot, too. Remember last year he said his favorite player, the guy that he always looked up to, was Larry Fitzgerald. And I think he models his approach after that, his professionalism, how he comes to work. It's that quiet. He goes, all the wide receivers love to talk. Every single wide receiver loves to talk and jaw with the defensive players. Gabe doesn't. He goes, I'd rather dance after the play. That's what he wants to do.
Yeah, and speaking of wide receivers, we have the guy who, I believe Aaron Rodgers thinks is the second best wide receiver in the NFL.
Yep.
You got Devontae Adams, and you have Jake Kumaro.
Yep.
He's looking really good here. And it's going to be quite a decision to make. I mean, McDermott was very positive about Jake Kumaro.
He is the guy that you kind of don't realize he's out there, and then his size surprises you.
Yep.
And then his speed surprises you. Dane Jackson said it after the scrimmage or at the practice inside the stadium. He goes, he's kind of a unicorn in the sense that most of the big guys aren't that fast, and most of the fast guys aren't that big. And he's that special size and speed combination. So I think he's been one of the true standouts so far in training camp. I think he is, up there with what Gabe Davis has done. And that's not a knock at Davis. It's a compliment to what Kumaro has done so far.
Which makes it really fascinating when you start looking at the wide receiver position. And I go back to this, saying to you guys a few years ago, they had the worst wide receiver group I've ever seen in 30-plus years for the Buffalo Bills. And now they have the best.
Yep.
And they were great. I should say, that's a tough one to say. Okay, when you had Andre Reed, James Lofton, Don Beebe, that was a phenomenal wide receiver group. You got two guys in the Hall of Fame. I'm sorry, Andre. I'm sorry, James. They have the best wide receiver group they've had since the Super Bowls.
In 2 decades.
Yes, and not even close. So they have this. So you got to figure out, where does Jake Kumaro fit? Now, if Aaron Rodgers really gets the job as assistant general manager, or maybe
Kumaro's
general
gone
manager.
for a first.
2 firsts.
Yeah.
Like he wants him back. So we'll wait about that. Now, speaking of Jakes, yesterday we talked about Mitch Trubisky, and every day we talk about Josh Allen. I want to talk about Jake Fromm. Oh, wait a minute. You're going to tell me it's not Jake.
It's not Jake. It's William is his first name. His middle name is Jacob.
That's the kind of information you get on Buffalo Plus for.
Yep.
So it's Willie Fromm?
Yeah.
William Fromm?
Jacob Fromm.
Okay.
He is fighting for a practice squad spot. And I know some people here on the YouTube channel and have tweeted at us to say, like, what have you seen from Jake Fromm so far? Why is everybody so harsh on Jake Fromm? He just hasn't shown a whole lot. Now he was also a guy that was put in very tough circumstances last year. He was the bubble boy. He wasn't even practicing 11-on-11 with the guys. He just looks like a guy that is fighting with Davis Webb for a practice squad spot.
Yeah, now the thing about that is Davis Webb's value goes considerably beyond his ability on the field. Sure, if you got down to the third quarterback or needed a backup, Trubisky or Josh is missing a game for whatever reason, yes, you would feel faith in the fact that Davis Webb has been around and that he could be that guy. But his value as a third quarterback goes beyond that. He's basically a coach, too, for them. And they love that presence. And they're only going to keep 3. This is the thing I'm saying. There's going to be 2 guys on the active roster, 1 guy on the practice squad. Unless they decide
I don't think
to make Davis Webb a coach. I'm not kidding. He's going to be part of this team. They love having him here. I think it's going to be awful hard for Jake Fromm to be on the roster.
I completely agree. I think there isn't that surefire third guy. And like I said, if they were so confident in Jake Fromm, I don't think they'd go out and get Mitch Trubisky. I think that's not I know that's a massive step up. I don't think they were ever hoping that Jake Fromm would have to play this year, but it's just looking at the depth in your team. Jake Fromm is noticeably at the bottom of the depth chart.
Yeah, now the one thing you do have to keep in mind, I mean, obviously Sean McDermott, again, pretty positive about Jake Fromm today, but the idea is, the belief is that Mitch Trubisky signed for a year, and then
he will go on.
He will get and he probably will get an opportunity somewhere else.
The Jameis Winston.
So the idea is Jake Fromm somebody that you feel is worth that roster spot for now and going forward, depending on what happens? And the only thing I would say to him is, he's a guy, hey, look, I mean, he's a great player at the University of Georgia, got himself into the NFL, but he's not particularly big, doesn't have a particularly strong arm. You got to show an awful lot. And this is not a developing team.
Nope.
This is a really good team trying to play for the Super Bowl. So look, Jake may prove us wrong.
Yeah.
Make the roster, be ready to go, challenge for the not really for the 2 spot that's going to be, but for that roster spot, we'll see what happens.
And I'll say that again too. Brian Daboll, Sean McDermott have said nice things about Jacob Fromm. We heard McDermott today, Daboll yesterday.
William Fromm
about the progress. We're basing him off what we have seen at practice. And last year we never saw him.
Yeah.
We did not see him at all. He was bubbled across the outside from the team because of COVID. So now we're getting to see him, and it's just not pretty. So
now, but here's the other thing he does have going for him is they're going to play 3 preseason games.
Yes.
You are barely going to see. I don't know if Josh Allen.
You're going to see a lot of Jake Fromm.
You're going to see
William
Mitchell Trubisky and William Jacob Fromm as the quarterbacks and Davis Webb. That's what you're going to see. Hey, he could come out in the games, in the exhibition games, the preseason games, and look really good and show something different. I think it's an uphill battle for him.
I think Jacob Fromm is a very good quarterback at Georgia. I think William Fromm is the governor of Georgia.
Wow. Future for William Fromm. Well, we will see. Look, it's a long way away from picking the roster spots, but it's competitive in Orchard Park again this year, and that includes certainly the quarterback position, which is better than it's been top to bottom now in 20 years.
Yep.
I mean, because you start with number 17. All right, that's going to do it for us today. Remember to subscribe, like, comment. We enjoy hearing from you. We enjoy when you subscribe. We think you're enjoying the videos. Jenna's with us most of the time. Today it's Dan and I, but you can see all of our videos on the Buffalo Plus YouTube channel. That's going to do it for us today. For Dan, I'm Mike. Thanks for watching.